spelled right, or are the words spelled right?
Yeah, that was a great comic. That's a great comic. That's one of my favorite out of the textbook. You know, some of them are, you know, a little weak, but that's a good one, right? The whole idea of which one's misspelled, the text or the picture. That's a clever joke. And yeah, no, it's true. The most challenging part of teaching in general, I would say, is making a strong initial connection with the students and maintaining the level of group enthusiasm on the part of the students so that the class propels itself forward through the course of this semester. By maintaining enthusiasm on the subject matter and keeping the students engaged day to day, the students will actually help guide their own learning experience and provide structure to the class. Now, this has two major advantages. One, it reduces the amount of burden that I, the instructor, have to put in to pushing the class forward and keeping the students engaged. And it also allows them to self-actualize and seek out the information that they're most interested in by participating proactively in the learning experience. I try to bring as much inquiry into the process as possible. So what can we notice about this? What can we notice about the type of interaction that these kids are exhibiting? Yeah.
They're taking turns speaking, and they're not only using like words but gestures to try to communicate.
Yeah, they're taking turns speaking, and they're also using gestures to communicate. And I think that the most important thing that students learn through inquiry is the fact that they are actually capable of taking the information that they have at hand and extracting further information from it. And that the knowledge that they've gained thus far is not some sort of self-limiting thing, but is actually empowering them to dig deeper and figure out more, or at the very least identify other interesting and important questions that they want to pay attention to moving forward. And that's just something that it's going to be very hard to get out of a classroom environment with a single unidirectional propagation of information. I have a word for the known object. Don't know what this is. New word must be that. Right? Yeah?
Does that make it a hindrance to language acquisition for a child if you say couch and sofa? Like, is that...
And so when it's possible, with sufficient prior knowledge and with sufficient preparation, to encourage students to work their way towards a conclusion, given a set of starting premises, then that's great. You know, I would say it's probably not confusing for them. It's actually pretty hard to confuse a child in a serious way during the course of language acquisition, right? I mean, they're incredibly robust. And unlike the carefully constructed... The major challenge that I've experienced in using inquiry-based teaching is when students simply don't participate. And that happens sometimes. Sometimes, despite my best efforts, students will not follow the line of reasoning that I'm trying to guide them on, or may simply be drastically underprepared, or enthusiasm may be low that day. And sometimes, this is one of the hazards that it's important to be cognizant of when you're adopting this more learner-centered strategy. The more that you empower the students to help guide the class, well, you're also running the risk that they might drop the ball on you from time to time, and you need a backup plan. So if I fall on my face attempting an inquiry-based strategy where for whatever reason I'm just not getting the participation that I want or the answers that I want, or something's not really working, then I often adopt the strategy of backing off to reworking through the roadmap of concepts that has converged on the topic under discussion currently, reinforcing the connections between those concepts, and explaining at a somewhat higher level of abstraction, essentially going through the inquiry-based practice myself as an example of the type of reasoning I would have liked to see. And that's not as nice as having them discover it themselves, but it's better than not giving them the chance to try and simply assuming that they couldn't figure things out given the chance.